What's good, everybody? I'm BPC and welcome to Competitive Origins MMA. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you can be notified on future videos. And hit the like button on this video, please. Now, today's topic is Khabib Nurmagomedov actually retired? That's right. And I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But first, I want to point out that I'm wearing a Competitive Origins Whatever It Takes t-shirt. And you can do whatever it takes and purchase a shirt at competitiveorigins.com. Now, a portion of the proceeds will go towards the channel so we can provide a better experience for you guys at home. And if you type in promo code MMA10, you will get 10% off your order. Now, you've been competing since conception, whether you're competing against yourself or others, Competitive Origins. Now, like I said, is Khabib Nurmagomedov actually retired? Now, before I get into that, I want to take a look a little bit about Khabib. Khabib is 29-0 in the world of MMA, and I believe he's 13-0 in the world of the UFC. Now, he won his first title, the 155 title that is, against Al Iaquinta. Now, Al Iaquinta was the number 7th ranked fighter, and he filled in on a last minute's notice. Now, this was actually a much tougher fight than one would have had expected. See, Khabib has the tendency to wrestle somebody down to the ground and keep them on the ground and just dominate and get a submission, or just win by decision is usually what he tends to do. Well, that wasn't happening in this fight, and Al has the heart and the determination to keep getting back up. Now, what was really surprising is that you would have thought that Al would have been the better striker, right? When these two were standing toe-to-toe, it didn't really go that way. Al was, a jab here, he was just throwing one punch at a time. There were actually no combos, while Khabib was able to demonstrate his striking ability. Now, while it wasn't actually that good, he had a tendency to keep his chin up in the air, and with a very good striker, all somebody had to do was just go like that, right on the chin, and that would have dropped Khabib right on the ground, and Khabib would have revolted back to wrestling, right? And that's not what happened. Khabib just struck and kept striking and striking, and he ended up getting the victory. He actually looked pretty good with this striking against this individual. Now, against another striker, it wouldn't have looked that great, but he did what he had to do. He adapted to the situation. Well, moving past that, Khabib had the opportunity to go face the former 155-pound champion, Conor McGregor. Now, these two went ahead and did battle. And in the end, Khabib had his hand raised. Now, Conor did fight off the attack at first, but then, it was too much and Khabib got on top of him. And the first round was dominance. The second round was pretty much dominance. But the third round, Conor was actually the first MMA fighter to get a victory over Khabib in the third round, according to the judges' scorecards. That's right. But the difference between a third round Conor McGregor and a first and second round is the lack of power. And by not having the power, he didn't have the ability to put, Khabib out. So therefore, in the fourth round, Khabib was able to take him down and make Conor submit. Well, moving forward, Khabib went on to go face Dustin Poirier, who's an excellent fighter, but he quickly displayed that, his wrestling is far superior than anybody else's, and he got Dustin to tap. He then, had the opportunity to go to fight Justin Gaethje. Now, some almost feel that he wasn't going to fight Justin Gaethje and that he was actually just going to retire. Now, you're thinking, well, why is he going to retire at 28? No, when he can go for 30. See, 30 was the original game plan between him and his father, but his father passed away. So one might say, well, since his father's no longer around, he didn't have the motivation to go out and do it. His father has been with him since day one, having him wrestle bears as a kid, and that's real. You can actually look it up online, all right? And, motivated him, was his main coach, through all these years, and, just go out there. And, Khabib, just wasn't really feeling it. It later came out that Khabib had actually gotten sick prior to this fight with Gaethje, and he actually broke his foot prior to the fight with Gaethje, but he still went out and he fought Gaethje. Now, supposedly Gaethje was going to be Khabib's kryptonite. That's right, because Gaethje is an absolute much better striker. He has so much power in his hands, and he has a wrestling ability. That's right, he was, a really, really good wrestler in the collegiate field. Now, what happened Well, what was supposed to happen, what actually happened, is two different stories. Because when the fight started, Khabib actually backed down Gaethje. Now, this is something that's never really happened before. Gaethje tends to always come forward and pushes the pace. And in this situation, he was backing up. He looked kind of frightened. He was, I think, on guard for the takedown. And because he was always on guard for the takedown, his striking wasn't there. And therefore, that allowed him to get taken down, and basically Khabib made him submit. Now, Khabib did say he was going to try to go for a different type of submission, but he did not want to hurt Gaethje. These two are teammates by way of their manager, Ali. Now, after the fight, Khabib basically said, it's time for me to retire, which, caught everybody off guard because Khabib is at 29-0. He was at 28-0 leading up to the fight, and now he's 29-0. Like I said, his game plan with his dad was to go 30-0, and now he has effectively said he was going to retire because he had made a promise to his mother, and he doesn't break his promises. Now, the thing that I felt was contradictory was following him, talking about that he made this promise to his mother, he did say that he wanted to be ranked #1 pound for pound. Now, Khabib had won his fight on a Saturday night, and the pound-for-pound rankings would come out the next week. So why would he be on the pound-for-pound rankings the following week if he's no longer an active fighter because he has retired? Now, that's what kind of caught me off guard, and I kind of said, you know what? I'm calling BS on that. I don't think he's really retired. And he might have got his emotions all filled up and stuff, but and that's why he said he was going to retire, but I just don't believe it, and I don't think Dana White believes it at all, because that kind of caught Dana White off guard, but Dana refuses to take the belt off Khabib. That's right, because Khabib, is supposedly not fighting, but Conor McGregor is fighting and Dustin Poirier will be fighting. Now, the word is that they would possibly take the belt and put it and make that for the belt. But Dana White says, no, Khabib is coming back. He truly feels that he will come back and they will do battle. Now, there's been some talk about possibly Khabib fighting GSP. See, his dad had said, I want you to fight GSP. He wanted to fight GSP, and it just never came together. Now, there are talks, Ali actually posted his manager online, GSP. Now, it's kind of cryptic because what does he mean, GSP? Well, there's no fighter that GSP is going to fight that Ali manages other than Khabib. See, GSP is very big into legacy, and he only wants to fight people that are going to improve his legacy, and Khabib, being 29-0, would be that fighter. But here's the catch. GSP does not want to go down to 155. He's fought at 170 and won a title. He fought at 185 and won a title, but he is not interested in going down to 155. Now, if I was GSP, I would do whatever I could do to cut that weight and become the first fighter to win 3 belts in 3 different divisions, but that's not his game plan. I think he wants to preserve himself and put him in the best possible space without having to completely drain himself. So maybe a catchweight fight between 160 to 165 may be possible between these two. I'm not quite sure, but that is always a possibility. Now, speaking on that fight between McGregor and Poirier, people are saying, well, Khabib, why don't you go fight the winner of that? And Khabib basically said, I don't want to fight these guys. I'm not interested in either fighter. I beat them, both basically. So, the questions were pushed more, and Khabib said, you know what? I would fight Conor McGregor if Dana paid me $100 million. Wow. Now we're talking big money right there, And the reason why I don't think Dana's going to kick out that $100 million is because Khabib doesn't have the star power that Conor McGregor has. Yes, he's one of the higher fighters as far as popularity, but his last fight where he defeated Gaethje, and he is the champion, only generated between 500 to 600,000 buys. Now, Conor is able to generate well over 1 million buys without having a title. So I can't see Khabib being paid like the A side when he doesn't bring in the revenue like Conor does, who is always, the A side technically. If you exclude the Mayweather-McGregor fight, which he was the B side, but he still pulled in about $85 million for that fight, so he did very well for himself. Now, you're wondering, all right, so what's Khabib's play? Why is he acting like this? Well, I think, when it all comes down to it, is that he's using the leverage, right? The leverage of, oh, you know what? I'm retired. And why do I say this? Well, here's another fact. Khabib posted online that he was tested by USADA. Now, in order to compete in the UFC, you have to be randomly tested by USADA. And if you don't want to fight anymore, you can be pulled out of it, and then you don't have to be randomly tested. Now, the problem is if you're pulled out of the USADA pool, you basically have to get tested for 6 months before you are allowed to compete in the UFC again. So the fact that he is held off on being pulled out makes me think, no, this guy is waiting for his next fight. He's just playing the game. And when I say playing the game, Khabib has just purchased an MMA organization. Now, he was a small owner in the organization, and now he's outright bought the organization, and I'll talk more about that later in the next video. But I think he's using that as leverage to get maybe a fight pass deal, maybe to get a development deal. You never know, and I'll talk more about that in the video. Keep eyes peeled in the next day or two where I'll put it out, and I'll talk more in detail. But other than that, I do think Khabib Nurmagomedov will come back to fight. I think it could be against GSP. Now, GSP is going to probably ask for a lot of money for that fight because he's putting his legacy at risk, and when it comes down between these two, I think it's going to generate probably a little over 1 million buys. GSP, when he came back to win the title against Michael Bisping at the 185 weight class, generated 1 million buys. And considering that Khabib only generated between 500 to 600 on his last fight, add in GSP, then maybe we're in the 1 million ballpark, maybe a little bit higher, but we're going to have to see if we can get the dollar figures right for these two guys because they're both going to be wanting a lot of money for this fight. I'm BPC. This is Competitive Origins MMA. Don't forget to do whatever it takes and go to competitiveorigins.com. Type in promo code MMA10 and you can get 10% off. Thank you guys and have a great day.